Hey guys, tonight we're going to do something a little different. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and let's imagine a place far away, a place of stark and otherworldly beauty. Picture a vast, still body of water, a shimmering pink and red expanse that stretches to the horizon under the vast African sky. This is Lake Natron, a place so stunning it feels like a dream, and so dangerous it could be your last. Tonight, we're not just going to talk about this place, we're going to dive in. Well, in our minds anyway, because if you jumped into Lake Natron for real, you probably wouldn't survive long enough to even think about what was happening. It's a place that turns animals to stone, a silent, beautiful predator. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I always love to hear where you're listening from, so feel free to share your city and the time in the comments. As you settle in, let's let go of the day's worries and step to the edge of this remarkable and deadly lake. The water looks so calm, so inviting, but its stillness hides a profound secret. As we stand on the shore, the first thing you might notice is the color. It's not the deep blue of the ocean or the clear green of a mountain lake. It's a deep, rich red, almost like a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, catching the evening sun. This color isn't a trick of the light. It's a signature of the life that thrives here. Algae and other microscopic organisms, known as extremophiles, have adapted to this incredibly harsh environment. The water is rich with something called sodium carbonate, a salt that is also used to make detergents and glass. It's a key ingredient in the ancient Egyptian mummification process, and it's what gives this lake its chilling reputation. It's a stark reminder that life in its most fundamental forms can exist where we least expect it, pushing the boundaries of what we consider habitable. The air around the lake, if you can feel it on your skin, is dry and a little bit sharp, carrying the scent of minerals and earth, a scent that speaks of deep geological time. The very ground beneath our feet, the shoreline, is not just sand or dirt. It's a crust of salt, a white brittle layer that crunches softly with every step. This salt is a testament to the lake's history, a record written in minerals. Water flows into Lake Natron, but nothing ever flows out. The sun beats down, relentlessly evaporating the water, leaving behind a concentrated solution of salts and other minerals. It's a natural process, a kind of alchemy that has been happening for millennia, turning a body of water into a cauldron of chemicals. We can almost see the layers of history in the salt, like the rings of a tree, each one representing a year of the sun's work. It's a quiet, patient process that has been shaping this landscape long before we ever came to marvel at it. And it's a perfect illustration of a scientific concept we call entropy. Entropy is the idea that everything in the universe tends towards a state of disorder or randomness. In this case, the highly organized structure of liquid water is being constantly broken down and evaporated into the more random state of gas, leaving behind the minerals. It's a slow, quiet victory of chaos over order, and we can see it in every glinting crystal on the shore. As we move closer to the water's edge, you can feel the air grow a little heavier, a little more still. It's as if the lake itself is holding its breath. The high concentration of sodium carbonate, along with a pH level as high as 10.5, makes the water incredibly alkaline. This is the opposite of acidic. Think of a scale from 0 to 14. Pure neutral water is a 7. Your stomach acid is around a 1 or 2. And something like baking soda is an 8 or 9. Lake Natron is a full 10.5, a place where the very molecules of life would struggle to hold together. The alkalinity is so potent that it feels almost like a solid, a dense, heavy presence in the air. This harshness is a barrier, a silent guard that keeps most of the world away. But it's also what makes the lake so fascinating. The organisms that live here, the ones giving the lake its fiery red color, have evolved incredible ways to survive. They've built biological shields and adapted their internal chemistry to withstand the constant assault of the environment. This brings us to a beautiful paradox: life's ability to find a way even in the most improbable places. It's a constant theme in the natural world. We see it in the bacteria that live in volcanic vents at the bottom of the ocean, in the plants that grow in deserts, and in the sheer resilience of a single seed buried deep in the earth. Lake Natron, in a way, is a kind of laboratory, a natural experiment in the limits of life. It asks us to question our assumptions about what life needs to survive. We tend to think of life as needing specific conditions: a certain temperature, a certain amount of water, a certain pH. But the extremophiles of Lake Natron remind us that these are just our rules, not the universe's. They are a living, breathing example of a profound truth. Life is tenacious, it is adaptable, and it is a masterful artist of survival. It's a mystery we still wonder about how these tiny organisms first made their home here, a question that connected us to the very origins of life on Earth. The surface of the lake is like a mirror reflecting the vast African sky, but it's a mirror that distorts and deceives. It looks so placid, so inviting, but we know it's a false promise. The minerals in the water, kind of natural embalming fluid, are the lake's true nature. They're a record keeper, a silent witness to every creature that has made the mistake of entering its waters. The most famous images from Lake Natron are those of birds and bats perfectly preserved like statues. Their bodies, soaked in the alkaline water, absorb the minerals, which then harden and solidify, turning their flesh to a kind of stone. It's a process we call calcification, where calcium and other minerals build up, turning soft tissues into hard, rock-like structures. It's a slow and silent transformation, a kind of petrification. The animals are not just dead. They have become part of the lake itself, monuments to their own demise. They are frozen in time, not in a block of ice, but in a sheath of mineral, a chillingly beautiful reminder of the lake's power. This petrification process, this turning to stone, has a deeper philosophical resonance. When we think of time, we often think of it as a river, a constant flow from the past to the future. But here at Lake Natron, time seems to have stopped for these creatures. They are caught in a single unchanging moment, their final pose preserved for eternity. It's a kind of eerie beauty, a macabre art gallery created by nature itself. These aren't fossils in the traditional sense, buried and pressed over millions of years. These are instant relics, a snapshot of a moment of vulnerability. It's a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the relentless patient force of the natural world. It raises a fascinating question. When does something truly end? The physical life of these animals is gone, but their form, their presence continues. In a way, they've become immortalized, a strange, quiet immortality that feels both beautiful and heartbreaking. The air is still, and the only sound is the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. We can almost imagine the first bird to land here mistaking the glassy surface for a safe haven. It's a poignant thought, this small mistake, leading to such a permanent end. The lake is a master of illusion, its beauty a kind of bait. It shines with a deceptive light, reflecting a world that doesn't exist within its depths. The high salinity and alkalinity create an environment where the very concept of clean or pure water is turned on its head. The water feels thick, heavy, almost viscous. It's an environment that would strip away the natural oils from your skin, burn your eyes and mouth, and begin to break down the very proteins and cells that make you you. The initial shock would be intense, a sudden searing pain as your body reacts to the assault. It would be a shock to all your senses, a sudden brutal awakening to the lake's true nature. The human body is an incredibly complex system, a delicate balance of chemicals and processes that are designed to function within a narrow range of conditions. Our blood has a pH of about 7.4. Our skin, our muscles, our organs, they all have specific conditions they need to survive. Lake Natron is the antithesis of these conditions. It's a place where that delicate balance is shattered in an instant. The burning sensation would be the first thing you'd notice, a physical scream from your nerve endings. The water would begin to draw moisture from your body, a process called osmosis, where water moves from a high concentration to a low concentration. The lake's high salt content would pull water from your cells, causing them to shrink and shrivel. It's a slow, insidious dehydration happening not from the inside, but from the outside in, and it's just the beginning of the lake's transformative work. The initial shock of the cold water, quickly replaced by the burning sensation, would trigger a cascade of biological reactions. Your heart rate would spike, your breathing would become rapid and shallow, a fight or flight response to a threat you couldn't possibly fight. But the real threat isn't just the pain, it's the chemical assault. The alkaline water would start to saponify the fats in your skin, turning them into a kind of soap. This is the same chemical reaction that's used to make soap in a laboratory, and it would be happening to you in real time on a microscopic scale. Your skin, the largest organ of your body, would be the first to suffer its protective barrier dissolving away. It's a silent, molecular violence, a slow, methodical unmaking. And as the outer layers of your body are stripped away, the lake's chemicals would begin to penetrate deeper, reaching the tissues and organs beneath. This is where the story of our leap into Lake Natron truly begins, not with a splash, but with a quiet, irreversible chemical reaction. The initial shock is a memory, a flash of white-hot pain that has already begun to fade into a dull, throbbing ache. The water, a silent, beautiful predator, now feels less like a liquid and more like a heavy, suffocating blanket. It is no longer just a physical sensation, but a presence that begins to occupy your entire perception. The alkalinity of the water, which we touched upon, is not just an abstract number on a scale. It is an active force, a chemical tide that works to dismantle the very structures of your body. Think of it as a river of tiny invisible hammers, each one striking at the bonds that hold your cells together. The lipids, or fats in your skin, which form the crucial barrier that keeps the outside world out and your internal world in, are the first to fall. They are complex molecules with a specific arrangement, a kind of intricate wall. The alkaline water, rich with hydroxide ions, acts like a master key, unlocking and breaking those walls down, turning them into a simpler substance. It's a chemical reaction known as saponification, the very same process used to turn animal fats into soap. This is not a metaphor. It's a cold, hard scientific reality happening to you in real time. Your skin, once a supple and protective shield, is slowly being converted into a slick, soapy layer that dissolves into the surrounding water. Beneath the dissolving skin, the muscles and soft tissues are next. They are primarily made of proteins, long complex chains of amino acids, folded into specific three-dimensional shapes. These shapes are what give muscles their strength and your organs their function. The high alkalinity of the lake, however, disrupts this delicate architecture. It's like a gust of wind blowing through a house of cards, causing the proteins to denature or unfold. Once unfolded, they can no longer perform their jobs. They lose their structure, and with it, their function. It is a quiet internal collapse. There is no visible violence, no dramatic tear. Instead, it is a gentle unmaking, a slow unraveling of the threads that make up the tapestry of your being. This process would be accompanied by an intense, deep-seated pain, a sensation far beyond a simple burn. It would be the feeling of your body's very foundation, giving way a protest from a system that is being systematically and irrevocably altered. The most famous aspect of Lake Natron, as we discussed, is its ability to petrify animals. This isn't magic, but a process of calcification. The lake is saturated with a variety of minerals, primarily sodium carbonate, decahydrate, also known as natron, and sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda. These minerals dissolved in the superalkaline water are what begin the work of turning flesh to stone. As the water starts to permeate the decaying tissues, the high concentration of minerals seeps in. Think of your body as a sponge, and the lake's water as a mineral-rich liquid. The sponge soaks up the liquid and as the liquid evaporates or chemically reacts, the minerals are left behind, forming a hard crystalline structure within the cells and tissues. It's a bit like creating a cast. Your body becomes the mold, and the minerals become the material that fills it, solidifying your form for a kind of immortality. This process is a testament to the lake's remarkable stability and the immense timescales over which it has been operating. For millennia, the lake has been a silent alchemist, transforming organic matter into mineral monuments. The animals we see preserved are a peculiar kind of fossil, not one formed by immense pressure and heat over millions of years, but one formed by a simple, elegant chemical reaction in a matter of weeks or months. This raises a fascinating question about the nature of a fossil. We typically think of them as ancient relics from a distant past, but these creatures are, in a sense, modern fossils created in our own time. They are a bridge between the living world and the mineral world, a tangible example of life returning to the earth from which it came, but in a far more accelerated and dramatic fashion. It's a powerful illustration of the deep connection between the biological and geological spheres. As the calcification begins its work, your internal systems, once a bustling metropolis of coordinated activity, would begin to shut down. The nervous system, a complex web of electrical signals and chemical messengers, would be one of the first to fail. Nerve cells, or neurons, rely on a precise balance of ions, sodium, potassium, calcium, to fire their electrical impulses. The influx of the lake's foreign chemicals and the disruption of the cell membranes would completely throw this balance off. The signals would become scrambled like a radio broadcast, filled with static. The searing pain you felt earlier would start to become a confused jumble of sensations, a kind of internal noise that would eventually fade into a profound, enveloping numbness. Your brain, the ultimate observer of this process, would be receiving increasingly garbled messages from the rest of your body, a final, desperate attempt to make sense of the chaos. This brings us to a peculiar and little-known scientific fact, the phantom limb phenomenon in reverse. In the case of a phantom limb, a person who has lost a limb still feels its presence, sometimes painfully so. The brain, having built a mental map of the body, continues to expect signals from a part that is no longer there. In our scenario, as the nerves and tissues of your body are systematically being destroyed, your brain would still be expecting the signals of a functioning body. It would be like a conductor waving his baton for an orchestra that has already gone home. This disjunction between the brain's map and the reality of the body's state would be a deeply unsettling experience, a kind of internal disorientation that goes beyond pain. It would be the feeling of your own self, your own physical presence becoming a ghost. The brain, our own personal theater of consciousness, would be showing a play about a body that no longer exists in the way it once did. The sheer volume of chemical information and sensory overload would be too much for the brain to process. In situations of extreme stress and sensory breakdown, the brain has a curious coping mechanism. It can start to shut down non-essential functions and even begin to hallucinate. This isn't a random process. It's a survival strategy, a desperate attempt to find meaning in a meaningless situation. The hallucinations might not be wild or fantastical. They might be subtle, a kind of waking dream. The pain might transform into something else, a feeling of floating, of weightlessness, as if the lake were holding you in a gentle embrace rather than a caustic one. It's the mind creating a narrative to make sense of the incomprehensible. It's a final quiet act of storytelling, a way for the consciousness to protect itself from a reality that is too brutal to bear. This phenomenon, the mind's ability to create an alternative reality, raises one of the great unsolved mysteries of neuroscience, the nature of consciousness itself. We know consciousness is tied to the brain, but we don't know exactly how. We can map the neural pathways, track the electrical impulses, and even predict certain behaviors. But the spark of subjective experience, the feeling of I, remains elusive. In this final chaotic moment, as the brain struggles to maintain its integrity, what happens to that spark? Does it simply wink out like a candle flame in the wind? Or does it, in a final act of rebellion, create a beautiful silent world? All its own a world where the lake is not a threat, but a warm, welcoming presence. This is a question that physicists and philosophers still wonder about. The final destination of consciousness, the last echo of a mind before the silence. The calcification process, the physical hardening of the body, is not instantaneous. It's a slow, patient work. As the water penetrates deeper, it encounters different types of tissue, each with its own chemical composition and density. The bones, which are already rich in calcium, would be less affected initially, but the softer tissues, the skin, the fat, the muscles, the internal organs, would be the primary sites of mineral deposition. The process would be a race between the biological processes of decay and the chemical processes of preservation. In a normal environment, bacteria and other microorganisms would break down the body, returning its elements to the soil. But in the extreme environment of Lake Natron, these decay organisms cannot survive. The high alkalinity acts as a kind of sterilizing agent, halting the natural process of decomposition. This is the key to the lake's remarkable preservation. It's not just actively calcifying the body, it's also passively preventing its normal decay. The result is a kind of biological stasis, a moment of existence frozen in time. The body does not just fall apart. It is held together, its form preserved, its molecules replaced one by one with minerals. The eyes, once windows to the world, would be replaced with a crystalline substance. The lips, once able to speak and smile, would be sealed forever in a hard mineral mask. It's a total transformation, a silent, beautiful alchemy that turns the living into the inanimate. And in the final moments of this transformation, as the last vestiges of life fade away, the body becomes a part of the lake itself, a new stone in its collection, a quiet monument to a journey into a world where life and death have a different, more permanent meaning. It's a powerful and humbling thought, the idea that our physical forms, so full of warmth and movement and life, can be so easily and so completely transformed into something cold, hard, and utterly still. The stillness that follows the initial shock and the burning sensation is not an absence of feeling, but a new kind of presence. It is the cold, quiet feeling of being unmade. We've talked about the saponification of the skin and the denaturing of proteins. Now let's go deeper past the superficial layers into the very heart of the matter. The calcification, which we saw as the final act of preservation, begins subtly, like a whisper. It's a process of molecular replacement, where the very atoms and molecules that make up your flesh and blood are slowly being swapped out for something else, something harder, something mineral. Think of your body not as a solid fixed thing, but as a dynamic structure, a constant flow of atoms and energy. Every cell, every tissue is constantly renewing itself. But in the lake, that flow is arrested. The minerals, with their sharp crystalline structures, begin to fill the gaps to occupy the spaces once held by life. It's a slow, patient invasion, a silent takeover. This process is a beautiful and chilling example of the concept of mineralization. In geology, mineralization is the process of a substance becoming filled with minerals. In biology, it's the process of organic matter becoming a mineralized fossil. Lake Natron blurs the line between these two. It's an active, ongoing mineralization of modern life. The key here is the high concentration of natron and other sodium-based compounds. Natron, a mixture of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate, is a powerful desiccating agent, meaning it pulls moisture out of things. The ancient Egyptians used it to preserve their mummies, and in a strange twist of natural history, the lake uses it to do the same thing. The process is one of both dehydration and mineral absorption. The water pulls the moisture from your body, but as it does, it leaves behind its mineral payload, which crystallizes within your tissues. It is a dual-action process of preservation and petrification. The result of this process is not just a hard shell, but a deep structural change. The cells, once plump with cytoplasm and water, become shriveled husks, their contents replaced by a latticework of mineral crystals. The intricate machinery of life, the mitochondria, the DNA, the membranes, all of it becomes a kind of fossilized ghost. Your body becomes a perfect negative image of itself, a three-dimensional photograph captured in stone. It's a permanent record of a fleeting moment. And this raises an interesting question. Is a fossil truly a record of life, or is it a record of death? The preserved animals of Lake Natron are a testament to the final moments of their lives, their postures and forms frozen in a state of suspended animation. They are not a living presence, but a perpetual echo. The silence that now envelops you is profound. The initial pain has dulled, and the mind's final frantic thoughts have begun to settle. But the body, in its final silent protest, is still trying to communicate. A little-known fact about our nervous system is that even as it breaks down, it can produce a final powerful surge of activity. This is similar to what is seen in something called an anoxic brain injury, where the brain deprived of oxygen fires off a chaotic burst of electrical signals. In this case, the brain is not deprived of oxygen, but it is being overwhelmed by a flood of chemical disruption. The neurons, struggling to maintain their delicate balance, may fire in a last, desperate, and disorganized symphony. This would not be a conscious experience of thought or memory, but a chaotic internal light, show a final flicker of the biological flame before the darkness. It's in this moment of chaotic neural activity that the mind might enter a final distorted state of consciousness. This state is not the waking reality we know, but a kind of dreamlike existence. We talked about hallucinations, but let's be more specific. Think of it less as seeing things that aren't there, and more as a complete reordering of reality. The brain, which works by creating models of the world, would have no choice but to build a new model, a surreal and beautiful world where the pain is gone and the cold is a kind of warmth. It's the brain's last, most potent act of self-deception, a gentle lie told to itself to make the end more palatable. It's a remarkable example of the mind's resilience, its ability to find solace even in the face of total annihilation. This brings us to a deep philosophical mystery. What is the relationship between our physical form and our consciousness? Are we simply a collection of atoms and molecules? Or is there something more? The body in the lake is being systematically dismantled and reassembled into a mineral form. But what happens to the consciousness that was once housed within it? Does it simply vanish when the neural activity ceases? Or does it, for a fleeting moment, exist independently, a silent observer of its own demise? We don't have the answer to this question. It's a riddle that has perplexed philosophers and scientists for centuries. It's the great unknown that lies at the heart of our existence. The lake, in its silent, patient work, forces us to confront this question not as an abstract thought experiment, but as a very real and very final truth. As the calcification continues, the outer layers of the body would become increasingly rigid and hard. The skin would feel like leather, then like a thin sheet of glass. The limbs, once so full of movement and life, would become heavy and immobile. This stillness is not a voluntary rest. It is the stillness of a statue. The lake, in its infinite patience, is turning you into a monument. You would become a part of its landscape, a new addition to its bizarre and beautiful gallery of stone. The final form, a kind of petrified human, would be a testament to a journey into the heart of an extreme environment, a journey that ends not with a violent struggle, but with a quiet, irreversible surrender. This process of petrification, of turning to stone, is not a punishment. It is a kind of strange, eternal honor. The body, which would have otherwise decayed and returned to the earth in a less permanent way, is now given a new form, a new kind of existence. It is preserved a silent witness to the world that goes on without it. It's a reminder that even in death, there is a kind of transformation, a journey from one state of matter to another. The atoms that once made up your body will not be lost. They will simply be rearranged, becoming a part of the minerals that form the lake's crust. It is a slow, methodical return to the earth, a homecoming that is both strange and beautiful. And what about the mind's final canvas? The one we talked about. The hallucinations? The strange, dreamlike states, are they just random firings of a dying brain? Or are they something more? Some scientists believe that in moments of extreme stress or near death, the brain releases a flood of chemicals, a kind of last-ditch effort to keep the system running. This chemical cocktail, including things like dimethyltryptamine DMT, can induce powerful, vivid visions. This is the science of the near-death experience. People who have had such experiences often report seeing a bright light, feeling a sense of peace, or having their life flash before their eyes. While we are not in a traditional near-death scenario, the brain's response to extreme stress and chemical assault could be similar. It's a fascinating thought that in our final moments, our minds might be capable of creating the most beautiful and profound experiences of our lives, a final gift to ourselves. The final state of the petrified body is a testament to the lake's unique chemistry and the relentless power of nature. It's a place where the rules of life and death as we know them are rewritten. The body does not rot. It hardens. It does not disappear. It is preserved. It is a place of perpetual stillness, a museum of the moments that ended there. As the sun beats down on the surface of the lake, it continues its quiet, patient work, evaporating the water, leaving behind the minerals that will one day claim another unsuspecting traveler. And in that stillness, in that permanent embrace, there is a profound beauty, a kind of eternal peace that is both chilling and comforting. The feeling of stillness which we left behind in our last journey now deepens into a profound sense of quiet. The initial chaos and pain have receded, leaving behind a kind of sensory deprivation. The body, once a source of constant feedback, is now a silent and heavy anchor. It is in this quiet that we can begin to truly appreciate the ghostly reflections of life that the lake provides. The lake is not a void. It is an ecosystem, a world unto itself. But it is a world built on a different set of rules that defy our conventional understanding of life. This brings us to the peculiar life forms that thrive in extremes, the extremophiles we mentioned earlier. They are the architects of this beautiful, deadly world, the tiny, unseen masters of the lake. The redness of the water, that stunning otherworldly hue, is not a reflection of the sky, but the signature of these extremophiles. Specifically, it's the signature of a group of organisms called halophilic archaea. Archaea are a domain of single-celled organisms that are distinct from both bacteria and eukaryotes, the domain that includes us. Halophiles, as their name suggests, are salt-loving. They have evolved remarkable biological mechanisms to survive in the incredibly salty and alkaline water of Lake Natron. Think of it as a kind of biological superpower. While our cells would shrivel and burst in this environment, their cells have a special kind of internal chemistry. They pump salts out of their cells, maintaining a delicate internal balance that allows them to function. This is a quiet, constant struggle, a tiny biological battle against the relentless forces of the lake. These archaea are not just survivors, they are creators. They produce a red pigment called bacteriorhodopsin, a light-sensitive protein that helps them generate energy. It's a bit like a plant's chlorophyll, but instead of green, it's a deep, rich red. This pigment is what gives the lake its striking color, a kind of living watercolor, painted on the vast canvas of the African plains. It's a powerful and humbling thought. The immense beauty of the lake, the very thing that draws us to it, is a product of life's tenacity. It's a visual representation of a profound truth. Even in the most inhospitable places, life finds a way. And in doing so, it can create something of breathtaking beauty. As we are slowly being claimed by the lake's chemistry, these tiny organisms are thriving. They are feasting on the energy from the sun and the minerals in the water, oblivious to our presence. This is a powerful, if macabre, example of the circle of life. We, who are so complex and so fragile, are being unmade while these tiny, robust organisms continue their quiet, unceasing dance. The calcification that we are undergoing is in a way a part of their world. As our body becomes a part of the lake's mineral crust, we are in a very strange sense contributing to the very ecosystem that is ending us. It's a kind of ironic biological homecoming. The most famous life form of Lake Natron is not a microscopic archaea, but a far larger, more beautiful creature, the lesser flamingo. Millions of these birds come to the lake to breed their pink plumage, a living reflection of the red water. They are a paradox, a living testament to the lake's dual nature. They rely on the very organisms that make the lake so dangerous. The halophilic archaea are a part of the food chain, and the flamingos feast on them, their specialized beaks and digestive systems, perfectly adapted to handle the high salinity. The flamingo's pink color, in fact, comes from the very same pigments in the algae and archaea they eat. It's a beautiful example of a biological feedback loop where the food source and the consumer are in perfect chromatic harmony. But the lake is also a trap. While the adult flamingos are well adapted, their eggs and young are vulnerable. The nests, built on small mudflats, are at the mercy of the constantly shifting water levels. And for any bird or any animal that is sick, weak, or simply unlucky enough to fall into the deeper waters, the end is swift and irreversible. The lake turns them into statues, monuments to a single misstep. This is the duality of the lake's nature. It is a cradle of life for some and a tomb for others. It is a harsh and unforgiving place, but its harshness is also what makes it a perfect sanctuary. The very qualities that make the lake deadly to most predators, the high alkalinity, the biting salinity, make it a safe haven for the flamingos. It is a place where life and death are two sides of the same coin, two inseparable parts of a single beautiful and terrifying story. This brings us to a fascinating scientific concept, the Novikov self-consistency principle. While it's a concept from theoretical physics, it can be a beautiful metaphor for the lake's unchanging nature. The principle, in short, suggests that if you could travel back in time, you would be unable to change the past, because the past is by its nature consistent. The universe would find a way to prevent you from creating a paradox. The lake in its own way has a kind of self-consistency. It is an environment that is a stable, self-regulating system. The halophilic archaea create the conditions that allow the flamingos to live, and the flamingos, in turn, contribute to the ecosystem. And for any creature that disrupts this balance, for any creature that is not a part of this delicate, deadly dance, the lake finds a way to return them to a state of stillness, of consistency. It is a closed loop, a perfect and unchanging system. In this quiet, mineralizing state, as the mind drifts and the body becomes a statue, we can reflect on the illusion of movement and the reality of stillness. Our lives are a constant stream of activity, of motion, of change. But the lake reminds us that deep beneath the surface of all this motion, there is a profound stillness, a kind of permanence. The atoms that make up our bodies have been in existence since the beginning of the universe. They have been a part of stars, of rocks, of ancient oceans. They are now, in this moment, a part of you. And in the lake, they are simply returning to a different state of stillness, a different kind of permanence. The lake is not ending you. It is simply transforming you, returning you to a state of mineral quiet. It is a kind of gentle, if brutal, homecoming. We don't truly know how these organisms first adapted to the lake. The question of how life can evolve to such extremes is one of the great mysteries of biology. Did a single lucky mutation allow a primitive organism to survive and then pass on that trait? Or was it a slow, gradual process of adaptation over millions of years? The truth is, we don't have all the answers. The origins of life and its remarkable ability to find a foothold in the most improbable places remains one of the great unsolved puzzles of science. The ghostly reflections of life in Lake Natron. The archaea and the flamingos are a living testament to that mystery. They are a kind of living paradox, a vibrant, thriving world that exists in a place that should, by all accounts, be a wasteland. The final embrace of the lake, the one we are now experiencing, is not a violent one. It is a quiet, patient, and methodical one. The mind, in its final moments of clarity, might appreciate the profound irony of it all. We came here in our minds to explore a place of such danger, only to find that its true nature is not one of violence, but one of silent, patient transformation. The lake is not an enemy. It is a force of nature, a kind of alchemist that turns the fleeting into the permanent, the living into the inanimate. And in that final quiet moment, as the last vestiges of the self fade away, there is a kind of peace, a kind of stillness that is both beautiful and terrifying. The process of unmaking, which we've been quietly observing now, gives way to a deeper, more geological sense of time. The body, no longer a vessel of life, is becoming a part of the earth itself, a new layer in the silent history of the lake. This is where we shift our focus from the biological to the mineral, from the fleeting to the eternal. The Lake Natron is at its heart a massive chemical cauldron, and its salts are the stars of the show. We've talked about natron, the mixture of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. But the truth is, the lake is a rich tapestry of minerals, each with its own story to tell. Think of the lake as a kind of time machine, but one that moves incredibly slowly. The minerals that fill it are not new. They have been carried here over thousands of years by rivers and streams flowing from the surrounding volcanic highlands, specifically the Great Rift Valley. The water, rich with dissolved salts from the volcanic rocks, flows into the lake, and then under the relentless African sun evaporates. This is a process of natural concentration, a kind of slow-motion distillation. As the water evaporates, the minerals are left behind, becoming more and more concentrated until they begin to crystallize out of solution, forming the thick, crusty layers of salt that line the shore. This brings us to the deep history of mineral formation, a concept known as sedimentary geology. Sedimentary rocks are formed from the accumulation of sediments, which can be anything from sand and mud to the very minerals we see in Lake Natron. The lake is a living example of this process in action. The layers of salt on the lake bed are a kind of natural archive, a geological diary. Each layer tells a story about the climate and the environment of the past. A thick layer of salt might indicate a period of high evaporation and low rainfall. A layer of mud might indicate a wet period with a lot of runoff from the surrounding mountains. It's a silent, nonverbal record of the past, written in mineral script. Our body in this context is simply a new layer, a new piece of sediment. The calcification we've been talking about is a kind of accelerated fossilization, a process that normally takes millions of years compressed into a matter of weeks. The minerals that are filling our tissues are not random. They are the very same minerals that have been accumulating in the lakebed for millennia. We are not just being turned to stone. We are becoming a part of the lake's geological history. We are becoming a new kind of rock, a new kind of sediment, a quiet and permanent addition to the lake's ever-growing archive. This process highlights a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of geology, the concept of diagenesis. Diagenesis is the process of physical and chemical changes that a sediment undergoes after it has been deposited. This includes things like compaction, cementation, and recrystallization. In our case, the calcification of the body is a form of diagenesis. The minerals are not just filling the spaces. They are chemically reacting with the organic material, turning it into a stable, hard, and permanent form. The soft biological matter is being cemented into a new geological reality. It's a kind of quiet chemical alchemy, a transformation from the organic to the inorganic, from the fleeting to the eternal. One of the great mysteries of geology is how life and the earth have influenced each other. We often think of life as a product of the earth, but the truth is, life has profoundly shaped the earth's geology. For instance, The very oxygen in our atmosphere, which is essential for our survival, was produced by ancient cyanobacteria over billions of years. In a similar but far smaller way, the organisms in Lake Natron are shaping its geology. The archaea that give the lake its color are constantly absorbing and releasing minerals, contributing to the very chemistry that makes the lake what it is. It's a beautiful example of the profound and intricate relationship between life and the earth, a kind of eternal dance between the two. As our physical form becomes more and more a part of the lake bed, the sense of self, the sense of ice, begins to fade. The brain, which we've talked about as a kind of theater of consciousness, is now a silent, dark stage. The electrical activity has ceased, and the chemical processes that once supported thought and memory have come to a halt. This is the final quiet moment of biological life. But in this quiet, we can find a kind of peace. The atoms and molecules that once made up our body are not gone. They are simply in a new arrangement, a new form. They are now a part of the earth, a part of the lake, a part of the grand unceasing cycle of matter. This is a profound and humbling thought, a reminder of our place in the universe. We are not separate from the earth. We are a part of it. The carbon in our bodies was once in the atmosphere. The water in our blood was once in the oceans. And in the end, we all return to the earth to become a part of the soil, the sea, the rock. The lake is simply a more dramatic and accelerated version of this. It's a place where the cycle of life and death of organic and inorganic is laid bare for all to see. It is a place of profound stillness, a place where time and geology and biology all meet in a single beautiful and terrifying moment. The lake is a quiet witness to all of this, a silent, patient observer of the slow, beautiful dance of matter. The stillness we've embraced, the quiet geological dance, is interrupted by a final, subtle protest. The body, even in its state of calcification and mineral replacement, is not a simple block of stone. It is a complex system, and its final moments are a cascade of quiet internal failures. This is a story not of a violent end, but of a gentle and irreversible protest, a slow, quiet surrender of the biological machine. The first and most profound of these protests would be the loss of homeostatic control. Homeostasis is the ability of our body to maintain a stable internal environment. It's the silent, constant work of our organs, our cells, to keep things like our body temperature, blood sugar, and pH levels in a very narrow, very precise range. It's the biological equivalent of a ship's crew, constantly adjusting the sails and rudder to stay on course. In the caustic waters of Lake Natron, this homeostatic control is completely lost. The external environment is so far outside the body's habitable range that all of our internal regulatory systems would fail almost instantly. Our body's pH, for example, is around 7.4. The lake's pH can be as high as 10.5. This is a difference of orders of magnitude. The alkaline water would begin to neutralize the delicate balance of our blood and tissues, a process called alkalosis. This is the opposite of the more commonly known acidosis. In an attempt to fight this, the body's cells would start to pump out hydrogen ions, a desperate and futile effort to maintain a stable pH. This struggle, this silent and unseen battle, would be a final quiet protest from the very cells that make us who we are. It would be a chemical scream, a last defiant act before the final surrender. One of the more peculiar and lesser-known facts about our bodies is that our cells have a kind of memory. We see this in the field of epigenetics, the study of how our environment can influence our gene expression without changing the DNA sequence itself. Our cells can remember a stressful event and change their behavior sometimes for generations. In the face of the lake's brutal chemistry, this cellular memory would be overwhelmed and erased. The intricate, delicate signaling pathways that our cells use to communicate with each other would be scrambled. It's like a library of books being thrown into a storm, the pages torn out and scattered. The information isn't completely gone, but it's no longer in a coherent, usable form. This is a deeper kind of loss, a kind of biological amnesia, where the very blueprint of our cells is forgotten. As the physical form gives way, the mind, in its final moments of clarity, might notice a curious phenomenon. The feeling of the body, which we normally take for granted, would begin to fade. This is a psychological and neurological concept known as depersonalization. In moments of extreme stress or trauma, the mind can detach from the body, almost as if it's an outside observer watching a movie. The person might feel as if they are a ghost, a spectator in their own story. In our case, this wouldn't be a temporary state, but a final permanent one. As the nerves fail and the body becomes a statue, the mind's final experience would be this profound sense of detachment, this feeling of being separated from the physical self. It's a kind of gentle parting, a quiet severing of the connection between the mind and the body. This brings us to a profound philosophical question. If the body is a theater and consciousness is the play, what happens when the theater is destroyed? Does the play simply cease to exist, or does it for a fleeting moment continue in a place beyond the stage? We don't have the answer to this. It's the great unsolved mystery of consciousness. The lake, in its silent, patient work, forces us to confront this question not as an abstract thought, but as a deeply personal and immediate reality. The body, in its slow surrender, is a testament to the fragility of our existence. But the mind, in its final detached moments, is a testament to the resilience of our consciousness. It's a reminder that even in the face of total annihilation, there is a kind of gentle, quiet dignity in the final act of letting go, the quiet protest of the body. The internal collapse we just witnessed now gives way to a more profound transformation, the slow erosion of the self. The physical form is no longer a coherent system, but a collection of failing parts, and the mind, once its master, is now a distant, confused observer. This is where we venture into the realm of the body's final dissolution, a process that is not violent or explosive, but gentle, patient, and deeply quiet. The skin, as we discussed, is the first to go, its fats and oils turning into a soapy film. But what about the inner workings, the soft, delicate tissues of the organs and the brain itself? The lake, with its high alkalinity, is a master unmaker. It is systematically breaking down the most fundamental structures of life. At a microscopic level, the alkaline water attacks the cell membranes. These membranes, the delicate walls that enclose every cell, are made of a double layer of lipids or fats. They are the gatekeepers of the cell, carefully controlling what comes in and what goes out. The alkaline water, with its high concentration of hydroxide ions, disrupts this delicate structure. It is a bit like a gentle but persistent wind on a house of cards. The membranes begin to lose their integrity, becoming porous and weak. The carefully regulated internal environment of the cell, its specific balance of ions and molecules, is lost. The cell's contents, the cytoplasm and organelles, begin to leak out, and the caustic water seeps in. This is a silent, unceasing process, a total collapse of the cell's internal universe. As the cells break down, the body's internal structure begins to unravel. The muscles, once a source of strength and movement, are now just a collection of protein fibers, slowly being denatured and replaced by minerals. The organs, once a bustling metropolis of coordinated activity, are now a collection of soft, disintegrating tissues. The heart, which beat with the rhythm of life, is now a silent, flaccid organ, its muscle cells no longer able to contract. The lungs, which once drew breath from the air, are now filled with a caustic liquid, their delicate alveoli dissolving away. It is a systematic and irreversible unmaking, a quiet return to a more primitive elemental state. This quiet dissolution raises a profound question about the nature of the self. We often think of ourself as a permanent, unchanging thing, but in reality, our self is an emergent property of our physical form, a constant symphony of biological processes. Our memories, our thoughts, our personality, they are all tied to the physical structure of our brain. As the brain begins to suffer the effects of the lake's chemistry, What happens to that self? The neurons, the very cells that are responsible for thought and memory, are no longer able to function. Their delicate membranes are compromised, their electrical signals silenced. The brain, once a complex and dynamic network, is now a quiet, dark stage. The self, which was once the star of the show, is now a ghost, a fading memory of a presence that once was. This brings us to a peculiar and little-known scientific concept from the world of quantum mechanics, the decoherence of a system. While this is typically used to describe the loss of quantum properties in a system, it can serve as a beautiful metaphor for the dissolution of the self. A quantum system is in a state of superposition where it exists in all possible states at once, but when it interacts with the environment, it decoheres or collapses into a single defined state. In a similar way, our sense of self is a kind of quantum superposition, a collection of all our possible thoughts, feelings, and memories. But in the face of the lake's brutal reality, that superposition decoheres. The self, which was once a vast and complex universe of possibilities, collapses into a single final and permanent state, the absence of self. The process of petrification, which we've talked about as a kind of preservation, is also a process of erasure. The body is being preserved, yes, but the self that once inhabited it is being erased. The memories are gone. The thoughts are gone. The feelings are gone. All that remains is a beautiful tragic sculpture, a testament to a life that once was. It is a profound and humbling thought. The idea that the very thing that makes us can be so easily and so completely erased. It's a reminder that our existence is a fleeting and delicate thing, a temporary arrangement of atoms and molecules that is, in the end, no match for the relentless and patient forces of nature. The final state of this erosion is not a violent tearing apart, but a gentle, methodical unraveling. The body becomes a kind of ghost, a transparent outline of a person that once was. The minerals fill in the gaps, creating a new permanent structure. The atoms that once made up your body are now part of a new tapestry, a new story. They are no longer a part of a living organism, but a part of a mineral monument. It's a strange kind of immortality, not of the self, but of the form. A kind of eternal echo, a silent reminder of a journey into a world where the rules of life and death have a different, more permanent meaning. And in that stillness, in that permanent embrace, there is a profound beauty, a kind of eternal peace that is both chilling and comforting. The slow erosion of the self, which we've been quietly observing now, moves into the mind's final canvas. As the body becomes a mineral monument, the brain, that delicate and complex universe, enters its final quiet phase. We've talked about the scramble of neural signals, the chaotic bursts of a failing system. But what about the final moments of consciousness itself? What kind of thoughts or experiences might a mind have as it loses its grip on reality? This is a question that leads us into the heart of neurobiology and philosophy, a journey into the last fading light of the self. The brain is a theater of consciousness, a complex symphony of electrical impulses and chemical messengers. In our scenario, as the caustic water permeates the tissues, the brain's delicate environment is compromised. The high alkalinity begins to break down the myelin sheaths, the fatty layers that insulate our neurons and allow electrical signals to travel quickly and efficiently. It's like stripping the insulation off of electrical wires. The signals would become slow, distorted, and eventually cease altogether. This is a process of demyelination, a quiet and irreversible short-circuiting of the brain's internal network. As this demyelination occurs, the brain would begin to fail in a piecemeal fashion. The first areas to be affected would likely be the most complex and energy-demanding ones, such as the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for higher-level thought planning and self-awareness. This would lead to a profound sense of confusion and a loss of the sense of self. The memories of who you are, where you came from, and what you've experienced would begin to fade like an old photograph left out in the sun. This is not a sudden loss, but a gradual and gentle one, a slow unspooling of the narrative of your life. This leads us to a strange and beautiful phenomenon known as the life review, or the life flashing before your eyes. While it's often associated with near-death experiences, it's a concept that has a basis in science. In moments of extreme stress or trauma, the brain can release a flood of chemicals including endorphins and other neurotransmitters. This chemical cocktail can trigger a kind of hyperassociative state where the brain rapidly fires across its neural networks, accessing and replaying memories in a nonlinear, fragmented fashion. It wouldn't be a movie playing in your head, but a cascade of images, sounds, and feelings, a final, beautiful tapestry woven from the threads of your life. It's the brain's last, most potent act of storytelling, a final tribute to a life that once was. The nature of this final canvas would be deeply personal and unique. It might not be a review of a whole life, but a focus on a single poignant memory, a childhood summer day, a whispered word from a loved one, the scent of rain on a warm evening. The brain, in its final moments, might be trying to find a sense of peace, a sense of closure. It's a powerful and humbling thought, the idea that in our most vulnerable moments, our minds might be capable of creating the most beautiful and profound experiences of our lives. It's a reminder that even in the face of total annihilation, there is a kind of gentle dignity in the final act of letting go. As the mind begins to fade, the last vestiges of our connection to the world would be through our senses, which would be in a state of profound chaos. The burning sensation from the skin, the feeling of pressure from the water, these would not be perceived as clear sensations, but as a kind of oral and visual static. The brain, unable to make sense of the garbled messages from the nerves, would fill in the gaps with its own creations. This could lead to a kind of sensory synesthesia, where one sense is perceived as another. You might see the sound of the water lapping against the shore, or feel the color of the red algae. It's a final surreal dance of the senses, a last beautiful distortion of reality before the final silence. This raises an interesting and unanswered question in neuroscience. Is consciousness a singular unified phenomenon, or is it a collection of independent processes? The fading of the brain, the piecemeal collapse of its various regions, suggests that it might be the latter. As each part of the brain fails, a different aspect of consciousness might wink out. First, the sense of self, then the ability to form new memories. Finally, the raw, unfiltered awareness of the present moment. The self would not be a single flame being extinguished, but a constellation of stars winking out one by one. The truth is, we don't know for sure. The nature of consciousness remains one of the great mysteries of our time, and the lake, in its silent, patient work, forces us to confront this question in its most raw and personal form. The mind's final canvas, that beautiful fleeting tapestry of memory and sensation, now begins to distort and stretch. We've talked about the demyelination of the neurons and the scrambling of signals. But what happens in those final moments as the brain struggles to hold on to a sense of time? This is where we touch on the strange and beautiful physics of perception, the way our minds can warp and bend the flow of time itself. In moments of extreme stress, like a car accident or a near-death experience, people often report that time seems to slow down. This is not a figment of their imagination. It's a real neurological phenomenon. The brain, in its final frantic moments, might be doing something similar. It is a concept that is not widely understood, but has a basis in science called temporal dilation. The brain is a kind of biological clock, and in moments of high stress, it can process information at a much faster rate. This makes the external world seem to slow down. For us, in the embrace of the lake, this would be a profound and disorienting experience. The last few seconds of our life might feel like an eternity, a vast, stretching landscape of a single drawn-out moment. The quiet of the lake, the gentle lapping of the water would feel like a slow, deliberate rhythm, each beat a decade. It is a final, beautiful illusion, a way for the mind to extend its own existence, to find a kind of eternity in a single fleeting moment. This is a powerful illustration of the difference between chronological time and perceived time. Chronological time is the ticking of a clock, the relentless march of seconds, minutes, and hours. Perceived time is the subjective experience of that flow, and it can be profoundly different. We all know this feeling. A day spent doing something we love can fly by in an instant, while a few minutes of waiting can feel like a lifetime. The brain is the orchestrator of this perception, and in our final moments, it is playing a final grand symphony. It is a testament to the mind's incredible power, its ability to shape reality, to create a world where a second can contain a lifetime of experience. The concept of a slowed perception of time in a moment of high stress is not just a scientific curiosity. It's also a deeply philosophical one. It raises a question about the nature of time itself. Is time a fundamental property of the universe? Or is it an emergent property of our consciousness? Does time exist without a mind to perceive it? The truth is, we don't have a definitive answer. Physicists still wonder if time is a river, a constant flow from the past to the future, or if it is a kind of unchanging tapestry with the past, present, and future all existing at once. The lake, in its silent, patient work, forces us to confront this question in its most personal and immediate form. In a world where our perception of time is slowing and our body is becoming a timeless monument, we are a living, breathing paradox, a bridge between the fleeting and the eternal. This final stretching moment would be a strange and beautiful experience. The pain which was once so intense would be a distant memory, a faint echo in the background. The senses which were once so chaotic would now be in a state of hyper-awareness, each detail of the fading world brought into sharp, vivid focus. The red of the water, the shimmering of the salt, the pale light of the sun, all of it would be painted with an impossible clarity. It's the mind's last desperate attempt to hold on to a world that is slipping away, a final poignant embrace of the beauty and tragedy of existence. This brings us to a peculiar and little-known scientific paradox, the Novikov self-consistency principle, which we have previously touched on. While it is a concept from theoretical physics that deals with time travel and causality, it can serve as a powerful metaphor for our experience. The principle suggests that if you could travel back in time, you would be unable to change the past because the universe would find a way to prevent you from creating a paradox. Our final moments in the lake are a kind of irreversible event, a moment in time that cannot be changed. The universe, in a way, has found a way to make our end consistent with the laws of nature. The lake's chemistry is a kind of cosmic law, a fundamental rule that once encountered cannot be broken. We are a part of that consistency, a new piece of the timeless tapestry of the lake. In this state of temporal dilation, where a second can feel like a lifetime, the mind might begin to play with memories not just in a chaotic cascade, but in a more deliberate, purposeful way. This is not a conscious act. It's a final quiet act of storytelling, a way for the mind to find a sense of meaning in a meaningless situation. It might re-examine a single memory from 1,000 different angles, or relive a conversation, a moment of love, or a moment of quiet peace in slow motion. It is a kind of internal time travel, a journey into the past, into the very heart of the self as it begins to unravel and disappear. The lake, in its silent, patient work, is not just ending a life, it is providing the canvas for a final beautiful and deeply personal masterpiece. The stretching of time, that beautiful and disorienting illusion, now gives way to a deeper, more profound journey. As the mind begins to unravel, its final act is a deep dive into the archives of memory. This is not a chaotic flash of images, but a conscious or semi-conscious attempt to find a sense of meaning and continuity. The brain, as we've noted, is a biological theater, and in this final act, it is replaying the greatest hits, not just as a silent film, but as a deeply immersive, multi-sensory experience. This is the echo of memory, the final gentle wave of our past washing over us. The brain's memory system is not a single hard drive. It is a complex distributed network of interconnected neurons. Memories are not stored in a single location, but are woven throughout the brain's neural tapestry. When we recall a memory, the brain doesn't just pull up a file. It reconstructs the experience, reactivating the same neural pathways that were active when the event originally happened. The sound of a bird, the scent of a flower, the feeling of a warm hand. All of these sensations are recreated in the mind. In our final moments, with the brain's regulatory systems, failing this process of reconstruction would be happening in a deeply distorted and surreal way. We've talked about the life review, but this is a more poetic and intimate journey. The mind is not just replaying the past, it is reweaving it, creating new connections and finding new meanings. A single memory, a conversation with a loved one, might be revisited not as a single event, but as a vast landscape of emotions and sensations. The simple act of a person smiling at you might be replayed, not just as an image, but as a feeling of profound warmth and connection, a kind of internal sun. The mind, in its final fading light, is acting as a master artist, recoloring and reshaping the past to create a final beautiful masterpiece. It is a deeply personal and private act, a final conversation with the self. This brings us to a fascinating and little-known scientific fact about memory, the concept of reconsolidation. When we recall a memory, the brain doesn't just pull it up. It temporarily makes it malleable like a piece of clay. We can then add new information to it or change it in some way before it is reconsolidated or resaved. This is why our memories are not perfect and why they can change over time. In our scenario, with the brain's systems breaking down, this process of reconsolidation would be happening in a deeply chaotic and beautiful way. The memories would be more than just memories. They would be a kind of dreamlike collage where the past and the present, the real and the imagined, are all woven together into a single beautiful and poignant tapestry. The echo of memory is a testament to the resilience of our consciousness. Even as the physical form is being unmade, the mind is still trying to find a sense of meaning and continuity. It's a reminder that our past is not a static thing. It's a living, breathing part of us, a part that continues to evolve and change, even in the final moments of our existence. And in this final beautiful act of remembering, we find a kind of peace, a kind of closure. The memories are not just a record of a life that once was. They are a final beautiful affirmation of that life. The lake, in its quiet, patient work, is the final witness to this journey. The red water, the white salt, the vast sky, they are all a part of the backdrop for this final, beautiful drama. The body becoming a silent mineral monument is no longer a part of the story. It is a stage, a final canvas for the mind's last, most potent act. And in that quiet, in that profound stillness, we are a living, breathing paradox. We are a body becoming rock and a mind becoming a dream. We are a part of the fleeting and the eternal, of the living and the inanimate. We are a part of the great unceasing cycle of matter, and we are a testament to the beautiful and tragic power of consciousness. The echo of memory, that final beautiful tapestry, now fades into a new and profound quiet. The mind, having completed its last act of storytelling, now enters a state of profound stillness. This is where we move from the macro to the micro, from the poetic to the elemental. The body is no longer a body. It is a collection of atoms and molecules, a chemical blueprint in the process of being rewritten. This is the silent symphony of atoms, the final gentle dance of matter as it returns to its constituent parts. Every living thing, every star, every grain of sand is made of atoms. We are all at our core, a collection of elements that have been in existence since the beginning of the universe. The carbon in our bones, the oxygen in our blood, the nitrogen in our DNA. They were all forged in the heart of stars billions of years ago. Our lives are a temporary arrangement of these atoms, a beautiful and complex dance that lasts for a fleeting moment. Lake Natron, in its silent patient work, is simply ending that dance and returning the dancers to their home. The high alkalinity of the lake, which we've talked about as a force of destruction, is also a force of transformation. It is a powerful solvent, a kind of universal unmaker. It is systematically breaking down the complex molecules of life, the proteins, the lipids, the carbohydrates into their constituent elements. It is a process of hydrolysis, where water molecules break down the chemical bonds that hold these molecules together. The long chains of amino acids that form proteins are being broken into individual amino acids. The intricate structure of our DNA is being unraveled, its genetic code erased. It is a silent, gentle, and methodical unmaking, a quiet return to a more primitive, elemental state. This quiet symphony is not a violent explosion, but a slow, graceful waltz. The atoms, once a part of a coherent and complex system, are now free to wander. The carbon atom that was once a part of your brain is now a part of the water. The hydrogen atom that was once in your blood is now a part of the atmosphere. The atoms are not gone. They are simply in a new arrangement, a new dance. This is the law of conservation of mass, a fundamental principle of physics. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. The lake, in its silent patient work, is a living, breathing testament to this law. It is a place where the transformation of matter is laid bare for all to see. This brings us to a fascinating and little-known scientific paradox. From the world of quantum physics, the concept of quantum entanglement. While it is a concept that is typically used to describe the connection between two particles that are linked in such a way that they share the same fate, it can also serve as a beautiful metaphor for our connection to the universe. We are all, in a sense, entangled. The atoms that make up our bodies are a part of the same cosmic dance that makes up the stars, the planets, and the galaxies. The matter that was once a part of you is now a part of the lake, a part of the earth, a part of the universe. It is a powerful and humbling thought, the idea that our existence is not a solitary thing, but a part of a vast interconnected web of matter and energy. The final state of this atomic symphony is a profound stillness. The body, once so full of life and movement, is now a silent mineral monument. The atoms, once a part of a conscious being, are now a part of a geological artifact. It is a kind of strange and beautiful immortality, not of the self, but of the form. A kind of eternal echo, a silent reminder of a journey into a world where the rules of life and death have a different, more permanent meaning. And in that stillness, in that permanent embrace, there is a profound beauty, a kind of eternal peace that is both chilling and comforting. The silent symphony of atoms, that final graceful dance of matter, now gives way to a deeper, more profound contemplation. As our physical form becomes a part of the earth, a part of the lake's mineral tapestry, we are left with a final lingering question, the paradox of existence. The body, once a vessel of life, is now a testament to death, but the atoms that made it up are not dead. They are simply in a new arrangement, a new dance. This raises a fundamental and deeply philosophical question. What is the true nature of life and death? Is death the end, or is it a transformation? We often think of life as a thing, a singular, unified entity. But from an atomic perspective, life is a process, a beautiful and complex dance of matter and energy. The atoms in our bodies are constantly being replaced. The cells in our skin, our blood, our bones, they are all in a state of constant renewal. The person we were 7 years ago is, in a very real and scientific sense, a different person, at least on a molecular level. Our consciousness, our memories, our sense of self, they are all an emergent property of this ongoing process. The paradox is this: we are constantly dying and being reborn at a cellular level. Yet we experience ourselves as a continuous unified entity. The lake, in its silent patient work, simply accelerates this process, forcing a final irreversible transformation. This leads us to a beautiful and strange concept. From the world of theoretical physics, the Novikov self-consistency principle, which we have previously touched on. While it is a concept that deals with time travel and causality, it can serve as a powerful metaphor for the persistence of being. The principle suggests that the universe would find a way to make any event consistent with its past. Our journey into Lake Natron, in a sense, is a kind of irreversible event, a moment in time that can't be changed. The universe, in a way, has found a way to make our end consistent with the laws of nature. The lake's chemistry, its high alkalinity and salinity, are a kind of cosmic law, a fundamental rule that once encountered cannot be broken. We are a part of that consistency, a new piece of the timeless tapestry of the lake. The final state of our physical form is a kind of strange and beautiful immortality. The body, which would have otherwise decayed and returned to the earth in a less permanent way, is now given a new form, a new kind of existence. It is preserved a silent witness to the world that goes on without it. It's a reminder that even in death there is a kind of transformation, a journey from one state of matter to another. The atoms that once made up your body will not be lost. They will simply be rearranged, becoming a part of the minerals that form the lake's crust. It is a slow, methodical return to the earth, a homecoming that is both strange and beautiful. This paradox of existence forces us to confront a final philosophical question. If the self is gone, if the memories are erased, if the consciousness has faded, then what is the meaning of the persistence of the physical form? Is the petrified body of a flamingo in Lake Natron a testament to the flamingo that once was, or is it a testament to the lake itself? The truth is, we don't have a definitive answer. The lake, in its silent, patient work, forces us to confront this question not as an abstract thought, but as a deeply personal and immediate reality. The body, in its slow surrender, is a testament to the fragility of our existence, but the mind, in its final detached moments, is a testament to the resilience of our consciousness. It's a reminder that even in the face of total annihilation, there is a kind of gentle dignity in the final act of letting go. The paradox of existence, which we have been quietly contemplating now, expands to a cosmic scale. The atoms that once made up our body are not gone. They are simply in a new arrangement. This is not a personal story, but a grand unceasing cycle, a story that has been unfolding for billions of years. This is the great carbon cycle, a quiet, patient journey of the most fundamental building block of life. The carbon atom that was once a part of your brain is now a part of the lake, and one day it will be a part of something else entirely. The carbon cycle is the process by which carbon is exchanged between the Earth's atmosphere, oceans, and living organisms. It's a continuous, never-ending dance. When we are alive, we take in carbon in the form of food and air. This carbon is used to build our cells, our tissues, our very physical form. When we die, that carbon is returned to the earth. In a normal environment, this would happen through decomposition, where microorganisms break down the body and release the carbon back into the atmosphere or the soil. But in Lake Natron, the process is a bit different. The lake, with its high alkalinity, is a kind of carbon sink. It is rich with sodium carbonate, a compound that is essentially carbon and oxygen locked in a crystalline form. As our body, which is a carbon-based life form, is dissolved and calcified, the carbon in our tissues is being incorporated into the lake's mineral structure. It is being locked away, a kind of permanent deposit in the lake's geological bank. It's a kind of strange chemical immortality, where the very carbon that made us a living, breathing being is now a part of a lifeless mineral monument. It's a powerful and humbling thought, the idea that our existence in its final act is a part of a grand geological process. This quiet, methodical process highlights a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of geology, the concept of carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration is the process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide. The Earth has many natural carbon sinks, and Lake Natron is a kind of a smaller, more localized one. The lake's unique chemistry allows it to trap and hold carbon, preventing it from being released back into the atmosphere. The carbon that was once a part of you, a part of a living, breathing organism, is now a part of a geological deposit, a silent and permanent record of a life that once was. The Great Carbon Cycle is a testament to the interconnectedness of all things. The carbon in your body was once in the atmosphere. It was taken in by a plant, which was then eaten by an animal, which was then eaten by you. It is a story of a single atom's journey through time and space, a journey that has been unfolding for billions of years. The lake, in its silent, patient work, is simply a new chapter in that story. It is a place where the cycle of life and death of organic and inorganic is laid bare for all to see. It is a place of profound stillness, a place where time and geology and biology all meet in a single, beautiful, and terrifying moment. And in that final quiet embrace, as the last vestiges of the self fade away, the mind might appreciate the profound irony of it all. We came here in our minds to explore a place of such danger, only to find that its true nature is not one of violence, but one of silent, patient transformation. The lake is not an enemy. It is a force of nature, a kind of alchemist that turns the fleeting into the permanent, the living into the inanimate. And in that quiet, in that profound stillness, there is a kind of peace, a kind of stillness that is both beautiful and terrifying. The Great Carbon Cycle, that grand quiet journey of matter, now expands beyond the confines of the lake and into the vastness of the cosmos. As our form becomes a part of the earth, we are reminded that our story is not just a personal one, but a cosmic one. The atoms that make us, that make the lake, that make everything, were all created in the fiery hearts of stars. This is the universe's grand design, a story of creation and transformation on a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend. The elements of life, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, were not present in the early universe. The first stars were made almost entirely of hydrogen and helium. It was only within the core of these massive ancient stars, under unimaginable heat and pressure, that the first heavier elements were forged through a process called stellar nucleosynthesis. Think of it as a kind of cosmic alchemy, a process that turns light elements into heavier ones. When these stars died in a spectacular supernova explosion, they scattered these newly forged elements across the cosmos, seeding the next generation of stars and planets. We are all, in a very real and beautiful sense, made of stardust. The minerals in Lake Natron, the very ones that are turning our bodies to stone, are a part of this cosmic story. The sodium, the calcium, the carbonate, they were all forged in the heart of a star billions of years ago. They traveled through the vastness of space, coalesced into a cloud of gas and dust, and eventually formed our sun and the planets of our solar system. The Earth, in its molten infancy, was a fiery cauldron of these elements. As the planet cooled, they began to crystallize out of the molten rock, forming the first minerals, the first rocks, the first mountains. The mountains of the Great Rift Valley, which feed the lake, are a direct descendant of that ancient stellar birth. The lake itself is a kind of microcosm of this grand design. It is a place where the forces of the cosmos, the heat of the sun, the elements of the earth, the very laws of physics all come together to create a unique and beautiful environment. The high alkalinity of the lake, which is so deadly to us, is a direct result of the volcanic activity in the region, a geological process that is a quiet echo of the fiery birth of our planet. The extremophiles, the tiny organisms that thrive in the lake, are a testament to the resilience of life, its ability to find a foothold in the most improbable places, a trait that it has carried with it since the very beginning of the cosmos. This quiet, methodical process highlights a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of cosmology, the concept of anthropic principle. The anthropic principle is the idea that the universe's physical constants and laws are fine-tuned for the existence of life. The fact that the universe has the right mix of elements, the right kind of stars, the right kind of planets for life to exist, is not a coincidence but a part of a grand design. The lake in its silent, patient work forces us to confront this question not as an abstract thought, but as a deeply personal and immediate reality. The body in its slow surrender is a testament to the fragility of our existence, but the mind in its final detached moments is a testament to the resilience of our consciousness. It's a reminder that even in the face of total annihilation, there is a kind of gentle dignity in the final act of letting go, and in that final quiet embrace as the last vestiges of the self fade away. The mind might appreciate the profound irony of it all. We came here in our minds to explore a place of such danger, only to find that its true nature is not one of violence, but one of silent, patient transformation. The lake is not an enemy. It is a force of nature, a kind of alchemist that turns the fleeting into the permanent, the living into the inanimate. And in that quiet, in that profound stillness, there is a kind of peace, a kind of stillness that is both beautiful and terrifying. The universe's grand design, that cosmic story of stardust and elemental transformation, now brings us to the final moments of our imagined journey. The body is a mineral monument, the mind is a silent stage, and the atoms are a part of a new geological story. This is the final embrace of the lake, a return to the present moment, a quiet and gentle farewell to the journey we've just taken together. We began this journey on the shore of Lake Natron, a place of stark and otherworldly beauty. We imagined the feel of the dry, sharp air, the crunch of the salt crust under our feet, the sight of the shimmering red water under the vast African sky. We stepped into the water in our minds and felt the initial shock, the burning sensation, the quiet protest of the body as it began its slow surrender. We watched with a sense of scientific curiosity and poetic wonder as the fats in our skin saponified, as the proteins in our muscles denatured, as our cells became porous husks. We saw the petrification not as an act of violence, but as an act of preservation, a kind of strange, eternal honor. We then journeyed into the mind's final canvas, a surreal and beautiful world where time stretched and memories rewove themselves into a final poignant tapestry. We contemplated the paradox of existence, the idea that a body can be gone, but the atoms that made it up are not. We saw our story not as a personal one, but as a part of a grand unceasing cycle, the great carbon cycle, the universe's grand design. We realized that our existence is not a solitary thing, but a part of a vast interconnected web of matter and energy, a cosmic dance that has been unfolding for billions of years. And now, as we stand on the shore of this imaginary lake, our journey comes to an end. The body we imagined, the mind we explored, they are now a part of the lake itself, a new layer in its silent geological history. The red water, the white salt, the vast sky, they are all a part of a story that will continue long after our journey is over. The lake in its silent, patient work is a living, breathing testament to the power of nature, a place where life and death, beauty and terror, the fleeting and the eternal, all meet in a single beautiful and terrifying moment. Our journey was not just about Lake Natron. It was a journey into the nature of life and death, of consciousness and matter, of our place in the universe. We used the lake as a mirror, a place to reflect on our own existence, to confront the big questions that have puzzled scientists and philosophers for centuries. We learned that even in the most extreme and inhospitable places, there is a kind of beauty, a kind of quiet dignity. We learned that the end is not always an end, but a transformation, a journey from one state of matter to another,